Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Throwing Partners podcast. It's Kirby, Joe, and Nate here coming to you on a Monday night. Gentlemen, we are officially into the off season and into free agency. I sent you guys a message this morning saying that I wanted you to give me 3 realistic free agent options for your teams. So I want us to dive right into that. Nathan, I'm going to start with you. I want you to give us 3 free agent predictions for the Tigers that are realistic, not just dreaming, but realistic things that they can do. Let's hear it.
Drive into left. At the wall. It's gone. Tie game.
I'll start with a little bit of a disclaimer here. I think, realistically speaking, the way we've spent in the last few off seasons, I think signing anybody big is unrealistic for the Tigers. This kind of goes back to that episode we talked about owners wanting to pay some of the players. Like I said, Chris Ilitch is not really it's not really the type of guy who will open the wallet and sign some players. I already saw today, actually, now that I'm speaking about it, I saw today that they had given Skubal an offer already that was way below what they were expecting. So I can already tell we're going to be dealing with these shenanigans, and we better not fumble it. But
They offered him an extension?
Yeah.
Oh, God,
I think
wonder
it was
what it
like
was.
behind closed doors, like just first number. They said it was really bad. I saw it earlier today.
Oh, yikes.
But who will I start with first? I think I'll start with one that I think is actually the most realistic of the 3. Jack Flaherty. I think that we could definitely make a run at getting Jack Flaherty back. He was pitching really well for us. Obviously, he became the top trade asset during the season, one of them at least. I have him for 3 years, $70 million. That kind of goes towards, we're giving him more than what we paid him before. I think we signed him for 1 year, $15 million in the last offseason. Obviously, he proved himself. He proved that he's back. He can definitely be a productive pitcher. He was very, very productive for us. But this also is in tune with the Tigers front office. Recently, they haven't been wanting to sign any long-term deals. To also be fair, we have not had anybody that was worth signing to a long-term deal. But I think I'm going to stick around and say that they're going to have the same patterns, and they're going to stick to a 3-year, $70 million deal that'll put them at just over $23 million, I believe, per year. I think that's probably a pretty fair assessment for him. That's pretty fair compensation for what he did last season in the besides the last World Series start. The next one I have Anthony Santander, 4 years for $80 million. That is what the Trade Rumors website had for all of the teams that they picked. I think that's a more than fair assessment. If I'm being realistic, he probably is going to get more than $80 million for 4 years. I think he's probably going to average $25-30 million a year. You're talking about a guy that hits from both sides. He's got a power bat. As we said in the last episode, he makes pretty good contact. I think 4 years at $80 million is a little bit of an undercut there. But I think the Tigers also do have a decent shot at getting him. We need someone to play first base. I know he played a little bit of that. We could rearrange our outfield a little bit, fit him in there. In the DH, if we have to make Kerry Carpenter slow ass go in the outfield, that's fine. We'll make it work. But he's definitely a bat that could be very valuable for us. My third one, I wrote down Corbin Burns. I think he's still pretty young. He's, I think, early 30s. I have him down for 6 years at $172 million. I also announced him as the last one because I think this is probably the least realistic of our signings. Again, they don't like signing long-term deals. I really am worried about Scooble, like I just said. 6 years would be long enough. He's 30, so he'd be pitching till 36. I'm sure they would throw in a couple team options there or a mutual option or something along the lines there. But I think that puts him close to the 30 million mark, like 27 million, which, I mean, shit, we've talked about the financials for the Tigers already. We have more than enough money to spend. They made a whole buttload of revenue with that run at the end of the season. So realistically, I think those three guys are definitely in our budget. I mean, to be fair, everyone's in our budget without, but I think those guys are realistically pieces that they're probably going to go after.
Joe, what do you think? What moves do you think that the Astros could and maybe would make this offseason?
Well, I think the Astros could go a variety of different options. I've been bringing it up episode after episode. I believe that the Astros have multiple areas that they need to address with left field, first base, starting pitching, and third base. I still think that they're primed to have a great run, even if they don't address all of these needs. But if I had to pick three guys that they sign, it would have to be Alex Bregman, Yusei Kikuchi, and Christian Walker. Now, I think that Alex Bregman and Christian Walker are more likely candidates to be signed, more realistic. And I believe that they could probably get Bregman for 7 years at 190, and that puts him at a $27 million a year AAV. And I think that that's kind of realistic. Now, his price has just gone up because he has come out and said that he is willing to move positions to play second base, meaning that it kind of sounds like he's chasing the bag right now. It sounds like he's trying to open up his options for teams that are able to sign him. And longtime Yankees third baseman Gleyber Torres is also a free agent right now, which is a kind of interesting dynamic because the Yankees have also been rumored, among other teams, to be in the Alex Bregman sweepstakes. The Yankees and the Mariners seem to be the most prominent as of right now, along with the Astros. But I believe that him and the Astros will come to an agreement. Dana Brown has said that that is the Astros' top priority. And I tend to believe Dana when he says things because he has been right every time he has come out and said, at the beginning of the season, he said, believe in this team. It's just kind of the process right now. We're going through it, but we will rebound. And he was right. We ended up rebounding. We ended up taking the division. And I know that our postseason run was short, but we still made it. And I think that, we were one or two, plays away from making a pretty decent run in the end. So I think that Alex Bregman is the most likely candidate to be signed as an Astro over the offseason. I also think that Christian Walker is another guy to fill that first base hole. That could be a great addition for this team. He is probably one of the most underrated hitters in all of baseball. And for that, I think that we can get him at 3 for 75, which puts him at a $25 million AAV per year. Now he is 34, so I think that 3 years is probably the right amount of time to sign him on a contract. I think that 4 is pushing it. I think that 5 would be way too much, and I think that other teams are probably, also thinking along those lines when it comes to what they are going to offer him as well. I think the Astros can be pretty competitive when it comes to offering him a little bit higher salary. And then third, I would like to see the Astros go out and get Yusei Kikuchi and bring him back. He was very successful in his time as an Astro. He only lost one of his starts. Unfortunately, we did not get to see that trade fully pan out, and we gave up Joey Loperfido, Jake Bloss, and Will Wagner to get him. We mortgaged a lot on the hopes that when the time came, he would be able to be utilized for a Game 3. And unfortunately, the Astros didn't make it to a Game 3, but he would have been that guy to step up for them in that moment. And I had been saying this even before right after the trade was announced and before Dana Brown even had to explain himself, that the Astros saw him as a number 3 starter in their rotation. And that's exactly how he pitched. He pitched just like a number 3 starter would behind Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown. And I think that having him as a mainstay in that rotation would only benefit the Astros. And I have him, signing a 3-year contract with the Astros. I think that would be the perfect amount of time. I think that he is in the middle of his prime right now, and he has found, some usage changes that he was able to utilize with the Astros, and I think that he can only continue to progress if he stays in that system. So I'm hoping that the Astros are able to keep his services through the 2025 and beyond season. Now I will say that the Astros are, making, or there have been some internal discussions to free up salary to potentially go out and get all 3 of these guys, maybe even a fourth being a left fielder. Because I do think that running out an outfield of Chas McCormick, Jake Myers, and Kyle Tucker would be a mistake. I really do believe that they need that outfielder to shore up the left field position. But the Astros have been rumored to have internal discussions about trading Ryan Presley, who has been their closer since 2018, pretty much. It would be a salary dump, and it would be a move to free up space in the payroll to potentially go out and get another free agent or two. And I think that this is something that they should seriously discuss, because I think that Ryan Presley is on the decline. Now, he could be an asset for a team that is able to take on his salary, because if he does pitch well into the 2025 season, and let's say the trade deadline comes along, he would be a great asset to have, because he has the postseason pedigree. He's been the closer of a World Series champion. He's been the closer of another World Series team in 2021 and in 2019. But I think that he could be a real asset for any team that is middle of the market or in the middle of a rebuild. I think that he could garner some prospects in return. So I don't think it would be a bad trade for the Astros to make. I also think I've been a really big advocate of saying that I believe that the Astros need to trade Framber Valdez to free up some salary, because he will be making a lot in arbitration this year. It is also the last year of his contract, and I think that he is the most valuable right now to any contender, because he has a full year. He will be going into a team with a fresh arm, and it also, there's no chance for him to get injured between the start of the season and the trade deadline on the Astros, and then have him basically be useless for the team in every sense of the form, because there have been no talks of re-signing him now or in the past, when his time with the Astros has expired. So I think that is the course that the Astros need to take. I will mention the last free agent talk thing, that I'm reading a report right now saying that the Astros could be a likely landing spot for Juan Soto, just because of their payroll and having a little bit more flexibility. I think that whoever wrote this was probably listening to our podcast, because I've been such a big advocate for Juan Soto to the Astros that they just had to, give me a little shout. But I agree with everything that's written in this. It's the flashy move. He's only 25. It would be the perfect free agent for Jim Crane to sign to a long-term deal, because at 35 he will still be in the middle of his prime. I think that you can't go wrong with that. He has proved himself time and time again in the postseason, and he hits well in Minute Maid Park. So go sign him, Jim Crane. I'm going to keep saying that until he gets signed somewhere else.
Joe, I have a question for you. How much is Presley owed with his 2025 mutual option? How much is he owed?
I believe I believe it is 14 million.
Okay. God, that's expensive.
Yeah.
I was sitting here pondering what teams would actually be interested. One of which maybe being mine, since Joe Jimenez decided that he was going to hurt his knee and have to have a season-ending surgery, potentially for next season. I am ready for 2024 to be over because I feel like this entire year was cursed. It doesn't matter if you were a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher, an outfielder or an infielder. You got bit by the injury bug at one time or another. So with that being said, I'm going to preface what I say for the Braves and their realistic free agent acquisitions. This is on the preface that none of their guys that are free agents come back. So that's meaning Max Fried goes somewhere else, Charlie Morton retires, AJ Minter doesn't come back. Those three especially. I have 3 guys, potentially 4, that I can see them going after. It just depends on if Alex Anthopoulos wants to do left field and shortstop. We know that they are going to be down 2 starters, with Fried and Morton both potentially gone. That's over 300 innings that they've got to cover next year. Now, granted, they're going to get Spencer Strider back at some point or another. We don't know when that's going to be. That could be May 1st. That could be June 1st. That could be July 1st. We don't really know. We also don't know how good he's going to be when he comes back. He had the internal brace procedure done. I don't know how well he's gonna pitch. He could be average. He could be great. I don't really know. The guy's an athletic freak. With that being said, I have been saying this for probably 3 seasons now, that they have always lacked quality starting pitching depth. I would love for them to go out and get 2 starters. It doesn't have to be the Burns. It doesn't have to be Max Fried. It needs to be guys that can give you good quality innings and that could potentially start a postseason game. That is not Charlie Morton. That is also not Max Fried. I don't really care if either one of them come back, to be honest. I know that sounds bad as a Braves fan, but there are 2 names that I would really like to see them potentially go after because, for one, I think they're going to be affordable, and then also, 2, they both have really good stuff. They've been linked to Nathan Eovaldi the entire offseason so far. I can see that being a very logical move for them. He's projected to get anywhere from 2 at 38 to 2 to 44. So we're talking 18 to 22 million a year. Charlie Morton made 20 million last year. To me, this is a move that makes sense for them. They could do a 2-year, $40 million deal. He makes 20 million each year. Maybe there's a club option attached for a 3rd season. He then becomes, the 4 or 5 guy in the rotation. And he's a guy that can actually start a postseason game. At this point in his career, you really don't want Charlie Morton having to start a postseason game. He's got a walk problem. He's got a home run problem. And Big Game Nate pitches extremely well in the postseason. So this is a guy that has been linked to them, and he does well. He gives you quality innings. He's not old. He's been bitten by the injury bug in the past, which worries me if he comes to the Braves this year. Maybe he should wait to sign until after January. But it's just a very, in my opinion, a logical move for the Braves, especially if they can get him at the right price. So that's the first one. The second one I have would be Yusei Kikuchi. They could use another lefty in their rotation. He's rumored to get anywhere from 3 at 50 to 3 at 60. The Braves could easily do that, and he's cheaper than Eovaldi. 3 at 54, 57, 60. That's very affordable in my opinion for Kikuchi. They could even attach a 4th-year club option if they wanted, and that's still very reasonable, especially for a guy that's going to be a mid-rotation starter or maybe at the back end. Both of those guys would give them quality innings. And the thing is if Spencer Strider comes back and he proves that he is actually ready to be back in the rotation, guess what they can do? They can either run out a 6-man rotation, or they can put Reynaldo Lopez back in the bullpen and let him be the long man in the bullpen, or maybe he can be the setup man because he throws hard. He can play any role that he wants to down in that bullpen because his stuff is that good. And he's got really good longevity, so he can go 3 innings if he needs to. He could be the setup guy. He could close if he needs to. So Raylo is probably the most valuable guy in their rotation and or bullpen. So those are the 2 arms I would really like to see them go after. Now, here's the wild card. Do they want to fill the left field hole, or do they want to run out Kelnick and Laureano as a platoon, or do they want to move Arceus to the bench and go get a shortstop? I would rather see the platoon play and see a new shortstop. They have been connected. Everything I've seen has been them connected to Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim brings them so many things that they need. He is a high OBP guy. Check. That checks in one box for me. He plays really great defense. Check. That's great. He also has great speed. Check. That's 3 things that he brings that I really like and they really need. 4, he also, according to MLB Trade Rumors, is going to be affordable. MLB Trade Rumors has him for 1 year at $12 million. Now, I don't know if this is just to reestablish his value or what, but 1 year at $12 million, every single team in Major League Baseball that doesn't have a shortstop or a shortstop that sucks needs to be on that like white on rice. Ha-Seong Kim is a good player. Even if it takes him 2 months into the season to come back, you're still getting a guy for 4 months who is a really good player. This guy is going to be a 2 to 3 to 4 win player every year that he plays. Simply because he runs well. He plays good defense. He gets on base. He has a great walk rate. He doesn't strike out a ton. He has so many things about him that are very valuable. Not to mention, not only can he play shortstop, he can also play Gold Glove caliber second base and third base. To me, it's a steal. I would love for the Braves, instead of doing a 1 at 12, I would love for them to do like 3 at 30, 3 at 40. I think that's very fair. Will they do that? I don't know. I don't even know if they're interested in a shortstop. Because we've already seen the rumor about Willy Adames right now possibly moving off shortstop because of his range. He's got a great arm. We all know that. But there's been rumors that teams don't really want to sign him to play shortstop. Maybe they want to move him to third. Now, I don't know if I agree with that just so soon because his defense is average. He's got a good arm. But if it's just average and he hits bombs, I would just leave him at shortstop. But anyway, that's beside the point. Now, if they decide to go the left field route instead of the shortstop route, there's one bat that I think they could actually afford, plays a decent outfield, and also hit 20 home runs last year in a not-so-hitter-friendly ballpark, and that's Michael Conforto. Conforto is only projected to get 2 at 18. For those of you who don't remember, Eddie Rosario signed the 2 at 18 deal. Michael Conforto is a much better baseball player than Eddie Rosario. Conforto hit 20 homers last year, playing in San Francisco in only 130 games. This guy could very easily be back to 25 to 30 home runs. He's hit up to 33. We've seen him with an OPS of 120 to 140 to even up to 154 in 2020. If he is available for 2 at 20 million, most teams need to be on that. The Braves, the Astros, whoever. Those teams need to be on him because he's valuable. Not to mention, too, if you're needing a guy that can slide into the DH role next year or the year after, guess what? Michael Conforto could be your guy. There's also a lot of red on his Baseball Savant page. That's really nice to look at. It's not a guy he's not really getting lucky. There's a lot of red, and that's pretty much a good sign. That means you're hitting the ball hard. You're doing a lot of things right in your game. If they're gonna go the left field route instead of the shortstop route, I would love for them to go get Conforto, especially 2 at 18. I think that's a steal personally. Then you can move Laureano, or you can you can just not tender him, and that saves you $6 million right there. And then Kelenic just becomes your fourth outfielder, which is probably where he's at in his career. And oh darn, Jared Kelenic just so happens to play the outfield really well. He runs really well. He's a great candidate to give Ronald Acuna a day off, to give Michael Conforto a day off, to give Michael Harris a day off, because he can play all three spots. He plays them fairly well, and he can hit for a little power. He is the perfect day off guy that can start twice a week if he needs to, or 3 times a week. He's really healthy. He does a lot of things well. He just doesn't hit particularly well. So I can see that where they would go the left field route. And here's the thing, too. We don't know what kind of shape Ronald Acuna is going to be like in the spring. Alex Anthopoulos has already come out and said he will not be ready for opening day. With that being said, what is the timetable for him? Is it May? Is it June? Is it the All-Star break? We don't really know. So you really need an outfielder unless you want to run out Michael Harrison center on opening day with Jared Kelenic in right or Jared Kelenic in left, and then Ramon Laureano in right. So I really think that they might just go the left field route, and in that case, I think Conforto is a realistic possibility. I don't think they fork out the money for Teoscar. I don't think that they fork out the money, obviously, for Juan Soto, even though that would just be a dream of mine for him to come to the Braves. None of those to me make any sense for them. I just think that Conforto is a type of move that they would like to see, especially if he's going to give you 25 to 30 home runs. He's going to give you a decent walk rate. He's going to give you decent on base. So those are kind of my thoughts. The Braves, I know that Alex Anthopoulos this offseason will do something with their bullpen because Joe Jimenez went down. He was having some issues with his knee, ended up going to the doctor after the season got over, and they discovered that he needed to have surgery, and it's going to have him out 8 to 12 months. That really sucks for one thing because Joe is a fantastic pitcher. So with that being said, I know that Anthopoulos will do something. I don't know what that looks like. But they have like 3 guys sitting down in AAA that they could start in the bullpen this year, and if they needed to move them into the rotation or send them down to AAA, they could very easily do so. Hurston Waldrop already has reliever risk. A.J. Smith-Shawver already has reliever risk. There's 2 guys, 2 power arms you could put in the bullpen to start, and they would probably thrive there because they can go and get 3 outs if they need to. But they run into the walk problem here and there, and then all of a sudden their start blows up. So I know that he'll do something, but also, too, you've already got a couple of options you can play with in the bullpen, especially if you want to get them on the big league roster. So those are my options overall that I think are actually realistic for them. Could they go out and make a big move? Yeah. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But it has been really interesting thus far, seeing the money that they have wanted to save. They traded Soler right as the offseason started. They didn't pick up Travis d'Arnaud. They restructured Aaron Bummer's contract and Reynaldo Lopez's contract to have them making less money this year. It makes me think that they are going to make at least one pretty decent free agent signing. Now, that could just be bringing back Charlie Morton, which would kind of be disappointing. But if they're going to bring on Eovaldi, if they're going to bring on Kim, if they're going to bring on Conforto or whoever, then those options are there now because they made those moves. And no telling what other moves they could make. They could restructure Raisel Iglesias' contract where he makes less money this year and has an option for next year. They could bring back Travis d'Arnaud for a lot less. Instead of $8 million, they could bring him back at $4 million. So there's several options that they could do. But I mean, we're just starting the off season. You know, we're about 2 weeks in now. The off season is going to be, you know, the next 12 weeks or so at least. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a very good breakdown from both of you. I think that y'all both have some pretty good insight on what the Braves and the Tigers are looking to do. You know, I think that I think that Juan Soto is going to be the biggest domino in this thing. I think that he's going to hold up the market. I think that until he gets signed, you know, there's not going to be a lot of movement. There might be some like utility pieces or some fourth outfielders that get signed here or there. But I think that Juan Soto was going to be the clog that holds this offseason up. So it'll be interesting to see how his free agency progresses as we keep getting further and further into the offseason. But I did want to mention one more thing about the Astros, just because I did not mention it last week, and this happened on November 8th. Reggie Jackson will no longer be a part of the Houston Astros GM by committee staff. I did not like him in the role that he had with the Astros. He was a very influential voice to Jim Crane after the sign stealing scandal. He joined the team in 2021, and it was a brutal 4 years of trying to revert to a time, that the Astros just did not build their championship pedigree on. He was one of the main voices, him and Jeff Bagwell, along with Craig Biggio, but I think to a lesser extent, that really wanted the Astros to go back to old school baseball. That that's not how they built their success. Him and Dusty Baker, Jeff Bagwell, wanted the team to rely less on analytics and more on feel and more on just the eye test. But sometimes the eye test fails, and then you're stuck with a load of crap. That they're kind of the reason that GM by committee is kind of the reason why James Click got forced out. So it's still really unfortunate that we were feeling the ramifications of that decision to, allow Reggie Jackson to be a part of the organization. He's also part of the reason why the Astros did not address their starting pitching concerns at the beginning of the season. Instead of giving up, three, key prospects and Jake Bloss, Will Wagner, and Joey Loperfido, you could have addressed those starting pitching needs that you knew you needed at the beginning of the season with a Blake Snell or with a Jordan Montgomery. And I know that Jordan Montgomery looked a lot less impressive than Blake Snell after his second stint off the IL, but that was someone that we really could have utilized down the stretch. And if you you could basically compare Blake Snell and Yusei Kikuchi from the time that Blake Snell came back off the IL and the time that Kikuchi joined the Astros, and I can almost guarantee you that their stats are very similar. They were both very good in the second half of the season. And you wouldn't have having to give up 3 top prospects from an already depleted farm system. But he really had the audacity to go out on John Heyman's show and say that we don't sign these kind of guys. So what, you don't sign good players? Is that really, your prerogative? That's the organization you want to be? You don't want to go out and get someone that can give you very valuable innings and be a very good starting pitcher? I mean, that was mind-boggling to me back then. I didn't understand that narrative. And I'm hoping that, Dana Brown is able to operate a little more freely now that one of the 5 voices is now out of the mix for the Astros GM by committee.
Well, I agree, and I think I just wanted to share this with you guys. So today is Veterans Day. So first of all, thank you to all of the veterans that have served in our country. We really appreciate your service. I'm just looking at a timeline here. So this timeline says November 19th is the deadline for players to accept or reject qualifying offers. November 22nd is the non-tender deadline. So we're basically 11 days away from finding out if guys are going to be non-tendered or not. December 9th through the 12th is where things really get interesting. That's the winter meetings. And then you've got the Rule 5 draft, which is December 11th. And then in February is when arbitration figures are exchanged. So with this next month right here, between now and the winter meetings, the 12th of December, no telling what kind of moves are going to be made. Let me ask this last question, then we're going to get out of here for the night. What are the odds that Juan Soto signs before the winter meetings? Nathan, what do you think?
No.
No? Joe, what do you think?
No.
No?
Not a chance.
Not a
I
chance.
don't see it. I think that he's
think
going to
that's-
drag this out.
Yep,
I think
agree.
that it's going to be a bidding war, and I think that he is going to drag it out as long as possible. Something that we did not talk about is, I don't want to butcher his last name, but the Japanese pitcher.
Roki Sasaki.
Oh,
Yeah,
Sasaki.
Yeah,
Roki Sasaki.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up too. Yep.
He was officially posted. I
Mhm.
said last episode that I did not think that he was going to get posted,
Told y'all.
because it did not make sense for him financially, but he went the Shohei Ohtani route, and because he does not have the service time, he will have to take, I believe, a minor league contract in order to play in the MLB, which that opens up his market to a lot of different teams. And I still think that he's going to the Dodgers, which are the likely candidates to sign him. And I think that he posted now because the Dodgers can utilize him at a lower salary. I think that makes perfect sense. The Dodgers payroll is already super inflated, and they will just be adding a minor leaguer to their MLB roster, making the league minimum after like 10 games or the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean, that's exactly what they're going to do. I don't think anybody would be shocked. Now, I've heard some people saying, like I said, that he's open to signing anywhere, but I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani sitting there in LA on the West Coast. The only other team I could think of and this would be insane, is the Mariners with their connections to Ichiro, but I mean, I don't know how likely that is. Their rotation is already stacked, and they need to spend money elsewhere. But again, he's going to be on a very minimal contract, so it's chump change for them if they can add to an already dominant rotation. But I still think regardless, it's going to be the Dodgers.
Mhm.
Him and Shohei were teammates for Team Japan and WBC. They've played together before. I'm sure that Ohtani has a lot of influence over where he decides to go. So I think it's more than likely going to be the Dodgers, unfortunately.
Well, and not to mention he is younger and he has better stuff than Yamamoto. And that tells you everything you need to know right there. And he's got a bigger frame than Yamamoto. Yamamoto is small. He's like 5'9". Sasaki is not. Sasaki is a lot bigger. He was throwing like 102 in the WBC. His stuff
Yes, he was.
is the elite of elite. So he will thrive in MLB. Once again, that's a guy that 30 teams need to be in on. I don't care if your roster has 42 guys on it. You're going to cut 3 of them to add Sasaki. That's all there is to it. He is that good. So
Yeah, he might be the best Japanese pitcher that we've seen. I think he probably even tops Ohtani, at least right now.
Just from watching some clips the other day, I would 100% agree.
I would have signed him after the WBC performances, honestly. I would have even signed it off there that he was probably the best pitcher that we've ever seen from Japan.
To be honest, he was probably the best pitcher in the
nuts.
WBC.
That's probably true. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I think we've had a pretty good podcast tonight. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember that we are on Apple Podcasts now, so if you could please leave us a 5-star review, that would really help the show. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Throwing Partners Podcast. We keep getting new subscribers. We have a lot of views on some of our shorts, especially. So thank you, everyone, for the support, and we will see you next week.